Hello there everyone, Aaron here from Push Square. So this weekend I was watching the whole Ubisoft Forward event, specifically for the Assassin's Creed celebration, the 15-year celebration, which is kind of insane. Does it feel like it's been around way longer to anyone else? There's like a bunch of games, 15 years seems kind of short to me. But anyway, this event actually revealed quite a few interesting things, namely the big hitter of the show was Assassin's Creed Mirage. It's a smaller scale game, more in line with the earlier games in the series. It's going to be set in Baghdad. It's got a character from Valhalla. I couldn't tell you who he was, but anyway, it's a character from there. But then additionally we got the confirmation and the announcement of two further games codenamed Red and Hex. Red is going to be a full-scale, Valhalla-sized RPG based in feudal Japan. Finally! We've been waiting for this for a long ass time. It's finally coming. Very exciting. And then Hex is going to be a smaller scale game, more in line with Mirage. And I'm getting European witchy vibes. Don't know if that's actually going to be the case. Definitely witchcraft of some kind is going to be involved. Could be very interesting. I'm still going to pick it up. But then of course we've got this big, long rumoured, very confusing thing called Assassin's Creed Infinity, which for whatever reason I had built up in my head was going to be Assassin's Creed answer to Destiny, an online live service MMO based in, rather than going to different planets like Destiny, you're going to the different time settings. I thought that sounded awesome. It was something that I possibly even just started to develop in my head, but now we got a bit more confirmation, some more details on the whole thing, and it's weird. It's a little weird. I feel like Ubisoft are being incredibly vague in a way that's actually confusing the mass population on what this thing actually is. So I spent the last couple of days reading through interviews, watching videos, trying to sort of get my head around the whole thing. But the base bit of information that you need to know is that Assassin's Creed Infinity isn't a game per se, as they keep saying, per se. It's actually a launcher or a hub for Assassin's Creed. So then if you buy codename Red or Hex, you can get that digitally or in disc. When you boot it up, you're actually going to go into Infinity, and then you'll be able to access Red or Hex or whatever game comes after that from there. So you're kind of like, what's the deal there? What's the point? It's not really that special. Battlefield has done something like that. Call of Duty kind of does that as well. We've been able to access other games from a franchise within a singular app before, so what's different here? And it seems that Ubisoft are attacking a couple of different fronts to change the direction that the series is going in, or at least how it is accessed and developed. So from our standpoint, the major takeaway for me was that there's going to be this separation of the meta present day storyline and then the in the past stories that we get as well. In previous games there's always been segments set in the present day. They've become a little more scaled back as time has went on, and a lot of people have had issues with them because they feel like they slow down the pace. They're too separated to really care. They're usually the most boring parts of the game. But then those lore lovers up there absolutely lap it up because the Assassin's Creed lore is incredibly expansive. This now will give you the option to access the meta storyline through Infinity, through this hub, which seems to possibly have some playable segments in it. I'd imagine maybe sort of like Assassin's Creed Black Flag, we're going to get first person gameplay within an Abstergo facility. We know that this hub is within the lore going to be like you accessing the Animus to then go into the different time settings. So I'd assume then that the meta storyline, the present day storyline, will continue and evolve through Infinity as new games are introduced. However, if you do not care about that stuff, you just like to be a shinobi warrior or a witch hunter or whatever it's going to be in these future games, you can just skip right past that and access the game and just not bother with that other stuff. That's really cool. But again, it's a bit of a weird approach because I wouldn't say it's necessarily worth this new approach. But then there's the question of multiplayer. Multiplayer is something that Ubisoft is actively trying to find ways to bring back in a standalone capacity. Now, if you played the old Assassin's Creed games, the multiplayer was fantastic. The co-op is severely underrated, I'd say. Unity was the last we got it, and I love that stuff. The little heists that you would get in some of the aristocrat buildings. I thought it was really cool. So I would love to see this come back in some capacity. Now, the use of the word standalone, which is something Marc Alexis Cote had said, one of the heads of Ubisoft, could be taken either way. Does that mean standalone multiplayer games per entry? Are we going to get a Hex multiplayer and then a Red multiplayer? Or does it mean a multiplayer title that sort of runs concurrently alongside the new releases? I think the latter is much more feasible. I could imagine a free-to-play game. We know that Ubisoft are considering free-to-play. A free-to-play multiplayer segment that is influenced with in-game events, new maps and cosmetics depending on the new games that are coming out. That's really, really cool in my opinion. I would love something like that, especially if you were able to mix and match time period armors and abilities. That would be awesome. But yeah, again, this is a different approach from Ubisoft because typically it wouldn't mention or even announce some of these games until it's pretty much done, maybe a couple of months before. But now we're getting this talk about these games that are potentially 2 to 3 years away. It's a big change, and obviously because of that, Ubisoft is being far more vague about it all. However, that's all been from our standpoint. There's also, from the developer standpoint, the reason that they're changing this. There's always been this sort of passing of the torch between Ubisoft Quebec and Montreal as they go between Origins and Odyssey and Valhalla. But this way, supposedly the idea behind Infinity is a way for them to streamline the development process, which could potentially mean more games coming out. But it's also a way for the different teams to collaborate with one another rather than sort of making their own thing and then they're making their own thing. It just allows there to be a bit more of a flow between the teams, but then also develop something potentially a bit more well-rounded. Overall though, it is a bit weird. I feel like there's a very big deal being made out of all of this, considering at its heart at this moment, it just sounds like a launcher or a hub. I think it's going to be something we're going to have to build up to across years. Maybe when we're like 3 or 4 Assassin's Creed games deep into Infinity, that's when this whole idea, this whole concept is going to come to fruition. I'm definitely excited in a way to see what comes of it. However, at this point I can't say it's highly anticipated. I'm more curious than anything else. But please let me know down below what you're thinking about this. Is this the way forward for this franchise? Is this something you're happy about? There's still going to be single player games, but obviously the whole tone or there's definitely been a shift in the way that they're looking at Assassin's Creed. Let me know what you're thinking down below, and as always, thank you for watching. Remember to like and subscribe for more discussional content like this and anything else in the world of PlayStation, and I'll catch you back here on Push Square. See you later, guys.